2012 Dinali GMC. Typical leak, a pattern problem General Motors had for years in their pickups, where up in the upper driver corner, right up high in the corner, they would develop a leak. This actually spanned many models and many years, and that's all this was a simple one. Doing the recharge on it now. But thinking of maintenance, something sparked my interest off the topic of air conditioning, what goes to fluids and why expensive repairs happen often. People don't think about brake flushes. You don't have to do a brake flush. If you don't have the money and you're a customer watching this video and you're not mechanically skilled, can you use a turkey baster? If you want to extend the life of your system, most shops pass up brake flushes. I was raised doing them yearly on our vehicles as a kid, so never had brake problems. Can you imagine how expensive this unit is to replace with the motor and actuator in that assembly? Can you imagine a failure caused by burnt black brake fluid? You see how that's black? That should not be black. You look down in there, oh, that looks like engine oil from a diesel even. You smell it and it smells rancid. Well, get your turkey baster, and if you have a hard one to get, put a little extension on it with a smaller tubing. Get down there and suck out all the fluid and pour in fresh fluid. Yes, it will get contaminated with some old residual fluid, but if you keep doing that every 5, 10, 15,000 miles when you do your oil changes, eventually this will come out crystal clear. And even though you did not flush your brake system going all the way to all your wheel cylinders or your calipers, you still would have clean fluid going through your actuators and your motors and your solenoids that will fail on you and cost you a couple $1,000s in a booster replacement. Or if you have one of the more expensive, elaborate, on the electric vehicles. So that's a easy, very often overlooked problem that you can do if you're not a mechanic. Another one, burnt power steering pumps and leaky racks from debris and stuff. Exact same thing. You open it up, you take a look in it, see that it's all black, smells rancid, smells burnt. Use your turkey baster, suck it out, fill it up. Every time you do an oil change at home, if you're a not very technically inclined do-it-yourselfer and oil changes are your limit, and you don't have the equipment or the know-how to properly do a flush by removing lines and flushing out and following those procedures, stay away from the more complicated stuff. Anybody can suck out fluid in place. So long as you don't turn it on, you won't mess nothing up. Same for coolant. Raunchy old coolant that they say lasts for 5 years or 150,000 miles. That extended stuff, bullshit. Don't listen to them. If you don't have the tools and equipment, you don't know how to do flushing, drain out your coolant tank, especially when you have a big reservoir like this. Drain it out, fill it back up with fresh coolant. Do that every oil change or so. Eventually you will dilute out your bad coolant with fresh coolant to the point where it's at near new levels of protection. This goes most with all fluids, that the regular do-it-yourself backyard mechanic or home mechanic who doesn't have tools, doesn't have resources to educate them on how to properly flush out systems, they could do with a simple turkey baster, just by periodically changing the fluid in reservoirs to the point where it comes out clear again. Not technical, not expensive, not complicated. And other than that, on the topic of this little pandemic and virus thing that we have going on right now, shops that are like dead. I'm in an area of Burlingame, and this goes for San Francisco, Daly City, Redwood City, no matter where I go, where the majority of the shops only have 1 or 2 technicians left in their shops. Some of them have even fully closed down. body shops, mechanical shops, specialty shops. But the one pattern, because I have a list of roughly 1,200 shops I go throughout the Bay Area, the one pattern I've seen for the last 30 plus years when a recession would hit was if it was a body shop and they just had all their eggs in one basket and they only relied on insurance companies because they no longer had walk-in customers or multi-generational customers where they took care of somebody's grandparents, parents, grandchildren, you know, from one generation to another. They had a good clientele. They didn't have comebacks. They didn't hire uneducated, unskilled workers to do screw-ups on the car, so they would always have pissed off customers who never referred new customers to them and didn't return. So they always have to rely on new customer turnover, like there's a sucker born every day. You know, kind of like the big franchise shops who are always putting ads out in newspapers because they can't retain their old clientele to keep them busy. So they're constantly looking for a new sucker. So they put out fancy ads to get new clients in the door. Unlike a good little mom and pop store, or a dentist, or a roofer, or a contractor, or a mechanical shop, or a body shop, who retained many generations of old clientele and didn't go the way of going in for warranty service contracts for bogus BS rip-off companies or insurance companies. The ones who did, they're all slow. But the ones who stayed in a business, have educated workers who don't screw up cars, have a good reputation, are busy. The last several weeks, I have a couple shops that I've been going to. They're the same shops during the recession. They're busy and they're not laying off people. Well, all the shops around them are dead as a doornail, laying off people. This goes for mechanical shops, this goes for body shops. And you hear a lot of whining and crying and pointing fingers and blaming, but this is the same old shit what happens in a recession. Same thing. But the same shops that are doing good were the same shops who were doing good in the last recession, the recession before that, the recession before that. I remember my first recession back in the early 80s working in this trade. And my father and grandfather and the older mechanics I was working with said, don't worry, this happens all the time. And it passes and everyone's good. So long as you're in a good shop, you'll be employed and you will not be short of work. If you're in a bad shop, they'll be grabbing their ankles and squealing, and the boss will be pointing fingers and blaming it on the economy, blaming it on everybody else but himself. The problem lies in the mirror. I know this is going to upset a lot of people, but if you're really good at what you do and you have the name and reputation, you will be busy even through a recession, morning through night, without laying off people. And after this pandemic thing goes over, we will probably be going into a recession because we were already heading that way. The signs were already there almost 2 years earlier. So this is no news, it's no surprise. It's going to come and it's going to go. And my grandchildren will go through the same thing. Catch you guys later.